Hello everybody, it's Mel. Thank you for joining me today for a recent reading wrap-up. So, as you can tell from the name of this video, this is going to be a reading wrap-up, but it's not going to be a specific month reading wrap-up because in the month of April, I only read 3 books and I felt like that wasn't really enough to talk about for a wrap-up. So what I've actually decided that I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to do recent wrap-ups. So every 4th or 5th book that I finish, I will do a wrap-up. So some months that might be 1 month, sometimes it might be 2 months, sometimes it might be not specified, it might be like halfway through 1 month, halfway through the next month, etc. We'll just see, but it's going to be every 4 or 5 books because I think that's a decent amount of books to have in one video. It shouldn't be a super long one, but it also shouldn't be a super short one. So that's the plan, which means that stats is going to be quarterly. So in my journal that I'm using this year, each quarter has a quarterly wrap-up section. So I'm going to use that and just do a quarterly wrap-up each quarter. I didn't do one at the end of the first quarter, at the end of March, because I was doing stats and all of that in my wrap-ups, but I will do it for the second quarter, so April, May, June, because I didn't do a wrap-up in April and I won't do stats in this video, which is a recent wrap-up, and that way I can kind of talk through goals and that sort of thing as well as giving you stats and everything. So I just thought that could be a better way of doing things going forward, just because that's how it kind of suits me at the moment. Always, you know, open to change depending on what suits me at a given time. But anyway, that's the plan. So yes, this is going, sorry, I'm just going to scoot over slightly so I can put covers here when I don't have the books. So this is going to be, like I said, a recent wrap-up video. So we're going to be covering the 3 books that I read in April. 3 books? Bear with. The 3 books that I read in May, and then a book that I've read in the first couple of days of June. I always do this in the order in which I put them into the journal. It may not be the order in which I finish them because I often read more than 1 book at a time. It just depends on, I guess it is the order I finish them, but it's not necessarily, anyway, it's not important. We're just going to go through from where I put them in the journal through. So I hope that's okay. But anyway, they are still in May, April, etc. So the first book I want to talk about today is In an Absent Dream by Seanan McGuire. This is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 in the Peach scale, which I have been using this year. So that stands for plot, enjoyment, artistry, so like the writing and that sort of thing, characters, and hype, which is sort of like the vibe and like did it live up to my expectations, that sort of thing. This is a rating scale that I have been using from Erin Smith, who is a journaler and booktuber, so I will link her channel in the description below. Anyone else that I talk about in this video, I will link down below, so you can go and check out their channels or their Instagrams or whatever social media they mostly post on and where I get information about them. But anyway, so I gave this one a 4, both for Peach and 4 stars, and I really, really enjoyed this one, as I said. So this is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series. The Wayward Children series is a series that kind of answered the question, answers the question about like portal fantasy, the children like the children in The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, who go through a portal into another world. When they come back, what happens to them? How is their lives after they've returned from the other world? The Wayward Children are children who have passed through some kind of portal into another world and they've returned to our world, and they don't particularly want to be here. They feel like they've fitted in the world they were sent through the portal to. That was their world. That was made for them to like, is how they feel. Yeah, they've been sent back for whatever reason and they don't particularly want to be here. So in the first book, we follow a girl called Nancy, and we get introduced to this whole concept. Now, she goes to the Home for Wayward Children, and this is a home that is run by an older woman called Eleanor something, I can't remember her surname, who went through a portal when she was a child and has come back and doesn't want to be there, has always been waiting for the door to reopen to let her back through to her world. Boarding school is a place where those children can go who have that same experience, same feeling, can go and be amongst people who are similar to them. So that is the sort of general idea behind the series. Each book is either following characters who are in the home for wayward children and who have been have gone through into another world and sent home, or following the children in their world. So this was following a child in her world. Her name is Alison Lumley, and she goes through to the Goblin Market. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed the book. I'm not going to go into any more detail because it is the 4th book in a series, but that's the general idea of the series. I think they're really well written. I think they're really fun. There's a really interesting way of looking at that concept, that portal fantasy concept, which is quite a known trope for fantasies. I just think it's a really interesting way of looking at the trope and at that whole concept, that whole genre, and it's just really fun. Like I said, really well written, always has some really great representation. So it might be neurodivergent. Every book has different representation. Sometimes it's neurodivergent rep, sometimes it's queer rep, sometimes it's all sorts of different disability rep, all sorts of different representations of diversity, which I think is really fantastic, and I just really enjoyed it. I think it's really well written, like I said, and lots of fun. So I gave this one 4 stars. The next book that I read, I do actually have, and that is Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and final book in the Skyward series, I think it's called, yes. Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, obviously. So this is the finish of the series. This is a middle grade sci-fi, and again, I really, really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the series. I gave this particular book 4.2 stars, which I rounded up to 4.5 on Goodreads. I know that some people have been disappointed by this final book in the series. Sorry, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but the light in this room, the overhead light, is on a timer. Well, no, sorry, that's not true. It is, since it's movement based, so like when you walk into the room, because this is going to eventually end up being the book fiend's room, and at the moment it's got a change table and different things in there. So we bring them in to change their nappy, and so that we don't have to switch light switches on in the middle of the night. It's movement based, but of course that means if I'm sitting here, the light tends to dim. But anyway, so every now and then I have to jump up and be like, hello, I'm here. Anyhow, yes, so this is a middle grade sci-fi, not middle grade, young adult sci-fi. We follow a young woman called Spencer. I believe in the first book she's like 16 or 17, and then I think she might be like 18 in this book, but she's you know, a young woman. And it's about, so she lives in this planet called Detritus, and she's a human. Detritus is a planet with a lot of rock formations, a lot of cave formations, not a lot of farming, not a lot of, what's the word, arable? Is that the word? Not a lot of earth that can be farmed. You can't raise a lot of cattle and produce meat that way, and you can't grow, you know, wheat or fruit trees or whatever. So they kind of have to scrounge for what they eat, and they live underground because of the harsh topside of the planet. On top of all that, they are constantly being attacked by this race of aliens that they call the Krell, and the Krell seem intent on wiping them out, but they always manage to just stop that from happening. And Spencer, as a young woman, wants to join the fighter force, the air force, or the spaceship force, I don't know what they call it, but anyway, she wants to join the force that are responsible for protecting the planet. But when she was younger, her father was killed, and he did something that branded him a traitor, or branded him a coward, which is equivalent to being a traitor. So Spencer is tarred with the same brush, as it were. And so anyway, she manages to make her way onto this force, this fighting force, and then other things happen. We expand the universe, we expand our understanding of what's going on, and this was the conclusion, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was well wrapped up. I thought that it was well written. I thought that I really liked Spencer's character. There are a few things that were, I wouldn't say disappointing, that's not the right word, that were a little bit too either not very well explained or kind of, it wasn't a perfect book, but I did really enjoy it, and I do enjoy this series. I think it's a great series. So I definitely recommend the series as a whole, and I definitely enjoyed this book as a final book in the series. Then we have A Few Right Thinking Men by Solari Gentle. This is the first book in the Roland Sinclair mystery series. I don't love the title of this book, if I'm honest, but that's not really important. Sorry, once again, I feel I need to address the crying baby in the background. They're fine, they're with their dad. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but they're with their dad and he's caring for them, so everything's all good. I'm not just leaving a baby to cry. Anyway, so this is set in Australia. This particular book is set in Sydney. Roland Sinclair is a quite well-off Australian who lives in the sort of upper class area of Sydney, and he is an artist and he has a bunch of artist friends, none of whom are as well off as him. One is a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, and it is set in this... Yes, it is set in the 30s. Communism is a big fear in that time, and this is partly a political story, partly a mystery story. We follow Roland when he is informed that his uncle is killed, and he thinks it looks like an accident. It looks like a break-in, so it was murder, but like an accidental kind of murder. And he thinks it was intentional, and so he goes ahead and decides to try and figure out what happened, solve the mystery. In an attempt to do so, he ingratiates himself into the arm of the right-wing fascist sort of society within Sydney. So yeah, it's about, like I said, it's a mystery, but it's also about politics in the 30s, communism, threat of communism, and sort of clash between the upper class and the lower classes and so on. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 3.8, so I didn't love it as much as the other two that I've spoken about, but I did really, really enjoy it. I rounded that up to 4 stars on Goodreads because I thought that it was well written. I thought that it was interesting. I enjoyed the conversation about politics and the way that that was done. I liked having the main point of view being from this upper class person who you would think would be the kind of more fascist character, and certainly his brother is. He's expected to be, but he's not, because all of his friends, he kind of moves in the artistic circles who are more socialist, communist, lefties. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And yeah, I definitely think it's worth a read. I definitely think it's quite well written. My mother loves this series. That's why I have this book and the second book. I intend to read the second book at some point in the near future. I did read this one previously, and I think I only gave it to 2.5 stars, and I'm not sure exactly what was happening there because I did actually end up really, really enjoying it. So I would recommend this series. I'm not sure how many there are in the series. It might be like 7 or 8. But anyway, I enjoyed this book. So yeah, that's the next book that I read. Moving on to... Sorry, there's a hair. Moving on to another book that I do own but forgot to grab. So anyway, we'll put a picture of it here, and that is Peril at End House by Agatha Christie. This is a Hercule Poirot book. I'm not sure what order it comes in. I'm not reading them in order. I'm just sort of reading them when I feel like it. It fitted into the prompt classic, and it was quite a short book, which I thought worked quite well. I gave it a 3.2. So again, not a book that I absolutely loved. It's kind of middle of the road for me. The Hercule Poirot books are middle of the road for me. I know that Agatha Christie is an excellent author. I like her books. I like the way she writes. But Hercule Poirot as a character is not my favourite of that type of character. So he is the investigator who usually looks into whatever's going on. And yeah, he's not my favourite of that archetype. So the police investigator. He actually has more. He used to be a detective with the police in Belgium, but he's retired and he's considered one of the greatest detectives in the world kind of thing. But I prefer Miss Marple for Agatha Christie. I just prefer like the Sherlock Holmes style. Like I prefer most renditions of Sherlock Holmes to Hercule Poirot. But I did enjoy it, and you know, they're always good books. They're always pretty well written. They're always fun. They wrap up well. Hercule Poirot is a fun character, but he's just a bit fussy for me. But anyway, I gave it 3.2. Not a lot to say about this one. This is slightly different from your kind of more standard murder mystery because we follow a young woman who has had several attempts on her life, and Hercule Poirot meets her and realizes that someone was trying to kill her, and so he sets about trying to save her. So it's not a straight up murder mystery per se. So it's a little bit different, so that was quite fun. But yeah, standard kind of middle of the road book that I enjoyed. I would recommend, but I didn't it wasn't a favourite or anything. Then we have All Systems Red by Martha Wells. The copy that I have, you'll see there's a bookmark in there, and that is because I am in the middle of the second book. So this is actually a bind-up of the first 2 novellas in this series, the series being The Murderbot Diaries. So I read All Systems Red, which is the first book in the series in May, and I'm currently reading, and I am not sure how far into the second one, which is Artificial Condition. I am about halfway through the second book, Artificial Condition. I was really, really surprised by how much I enjoyed All Systems Red. So I gave this one 4.5 stars, or 4.5 in the peach, which is, I rounded up. Did I round up? I think I rounded up to 5 stars because I actually really, really enjoyed myself. Like I said, I was surprised. I am incredibly glad that I loved it as much as I did because I have heard really great things about this series. I think that's why I was surprised, because often when I hear really really great things, like super hype, these books have been super hyped. They're everywhere, and when I hear everybody and their mother talking about these books and loving them, I tend to get I often find I'm a little bit disappointed. Even if I really enjoy them, I often find I'm a little bit disappointed by them, and I don't love them as much as I was anticipating. But I think I went into this with the correct amount of anticipation, because I was anticipating to enjoy it because everybody and their mother enjoys them, but I wasn't sure what I'd think because they are sci-fi, and sci-fi isn't necessarily my cup of tea. I have enjoyed sci-fi. Obviously, I have another sci-fi that I've spoken about already in this wrap-up. I do enjoy sci-fi sometimes. It's more a type of story genre that I appreciate in a visual medium rather than a book medium usually, but I did really, really enjoy this one. So this first book, All Systems Red, the whole series is about an artificial intelligent robot, who is a security unit. So they have all sorts of different intelligent robots, AIs, that are used for all sorts of different things, and they are considered luggage, I guess. Essentially they're considered, like a vacuum cleaner. They are a tool. So this particular sec unit, which is what the abbreviation is, sec unit or security unit, has hacked their governor module, which is the software that is designed to kind of keep them as a tool, not human-like. Hacked their governor module, and that has enabled the sec unit to become sentient, essentially. So they've become basically human, but they're not human. They're an AI. So it's sentient AI. They call themselves Murderbot because they are designed to protect humans and commit a lot of murder. And anyway, they've hacked their governor module. All they really want to do is watch TV, but they're having to function as a security unit and as a tool, as a non-sentient AI, so that they don't get discovered and taken offline and scrapped, basically. And anyway, it's really fun. Sec unit, or Murderbot, is really sarcastic, and it's just a really interesting way of sort of looking at people, because the robot doesn't like eye contact. The robot is asexual, aromantic, and it's just a really interesting way of kind of looking at certain aspects of what the human experience can be from that perspective. I just find it really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was fun, it was funny, it was an interesting insight, and I'm really loving the series. I'm reading the second book, as I said, and enjoying it just as much. It is also currently a series on Apple TV, which I'm really, really enjoying it. So if you have Apple TV or access to the first series of Murderbot, I would recommend it. It is the first novella. They are quite little. They are like 100 and something pages long, so definitely worth a read. The next book that I read was The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This was actually the book club pick for Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany for her Patreon. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to actually go to the book club discussion about the book because it was in the middle of the night, but it seems like everyone enjoyed it, enough. I enjoyed it to the tune of 4.6 on the peach scale, which I've rounded down to 4.5 stars. Did I? I can't remember. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun. It was really cozy. This is a story about a fortune teller called Teo, and Teo comes from another country in this world, and she was moved to where she currently lives by her mother when her mother remarried. The country she currently lives in and her original home of origin, I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, where she's from, often at war, not a lot of love lost there, and in where she currently lives, the people from her country are treated with suspicion a lot of the time. She looks like she has their looks, so people know that she's Shin. Anyway, she is a magic user, and she actually has the capacity to look into the future, but she uses this to tell small fortunes. So she looks into people's fortunes insofar as like, you will have a good harvest this year or something like that, like small things that are important or helpful or interesting, but not necessarily going to be hugely relevant to an entire country, that sort of thing. And she travels around this country in her wagon and tells fortunes. And she's kind of a loner. She's got a lot of trauma, a lot of difficult things in her past, which she hasn't really worked through. Early in the book, she meets two people who are hunting for one of the people's daughter, and they decide to team up, and they travel around. They meet someone else who decides to join them, and it's about figuring out herself and figuring out some stuff about her past, working through some trauma, making some friends, and yeah, it's about the kind of importance of friendship, importance of working through trauma and the difficulty of working through trauma and childhood trauma and how that can affect you as an adult. So there's a lot of deep stuff in here, but on the face of it, it is a cozy fantasy. So it's got those same kind of warm, comforting, cute, sweet, cozy kind of vibes with people traveling around, telling fortunes. Yeah, it seems like it's quite a small book. It seems like there's not a lot going on, but as with a lot of these sorts of books, there's actually quite a bit going on. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. Definitely highly recommend. It's very well written, really lovely characters, just a really sweet book with a lot to say, very quietly. And then the final book that I am going to talk about in this wrap-up is The Lady of the Lake by Jean Menzies. Jean Menzies, of course, being Jean from Jean Thoughts, I think is the channel name. Yes, I keep thinking it's Jean Bookish Thoughts. I'm pretty sure that's what it used to be called, but anyway, Jean Thoughts. So Jean is a booktuber. She was one of the original booktubers that I started watching. I've always loved her channel. I think she has a lot of really interesting and amazing things to say about books. She is a classicist. She is an ancient historian. She's written other books in the past, non-fiction and fiction, and this is the latest book of hers. This is her first Camelot. So the three girls, we have Arthur's sister Morgan, we have Guinevere, who is another potential suitor, potential wife for Arthur, and then of course we have Vivian. Throughout her growing up, her teenage years, Vivian discovers that she's not interested in marriage, she's not interested in men, she's not interested in Arthur, and in fact perhaps she might be interested in Morgan. So it is a mythology retelling about Camelot and Arthur's court. It is a fantasy because Vivian is the Lady of the Lake. Vivian has fairy or fair folk ancestry, and it is sapphic because there's a relationship between Vivian and Morgan. Like I said, such a good book, so well written, 5 stars. Really enjoyed the characters, really enjoyed the way it was written, love Jean's writing style. I really enjoyed Jean's writing style in her first novel, which I cannot for the life of me remember the name of off the top of my head, but I will put it in the put it on screen so you can see. I really enjoyed that one, but this one I thought was better. I think that she's honed her craft and just her writing has improved, but also I really enjoy retellings. I don't have a lot of historical knowledge of this time period, but I have watched multiple movies and TV shows about Camelot. I've read a bunch of different retellings about this time period, and so yeah, it's something that I really enjoy. It's a time period in history I'm really interested in, and I just thought it was fantastic and I really, really enjoyed it. Massive thank you to Ren from the Reading Ren, who purchased quite a few, in fact all of us, which is, I don't even know how many, but a number of people purchased them books from a bookshop in Sydney when we had a booktube meetup recently, which was so much fun, and I will talk to you about more in an upcoming video vlog. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book, thought it was fantastic, highly recommend, and I'm just like, somehow it hits differently when, I don't know Jean at all, like I've never actually spoken to her in person, but watching her videos you feel like you know her, and it hits differently somehow when you feel that way. But anyway, I'm really glad I enjoyed it and highly, highly, highly recommend. And yeah, that's the video for today. Those are all the books that I read in April, May, and one book, which was The Lady of the Lake, which I read in the first couple of days of June. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Let me know how your reading in the last few months has gone, what's a favourite that you've enjoyed. Let me know all of that in the comments below. If you would like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a fortune cookie emoji, if there is such a thing, or something that makes you think of kind of fortune tellers, cozy fantasy, in the comments below. But yeah, that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.